Greetings, all you Jackson Jennets, and welcome to your of Donkey with Ginger. Flash Alaskers now. Guys, the week happened. A week for the Steelers, I guess. But all in all, a week for the Steelers because all the other teams lost, and now there's how many teams sitting at 6 losses, Laskers, in the AFC, all at the wild card?
7.
7. That is 7 teams that are sitting there. And if the stream starts going crazy and laggy, it's not my fault. I am doing my best out here. Technology hates me, okay? So we have 7 teams sitting there. The question is, Gingy, how many games can the Steelers lose and still have a chance at the playoffs? Because to me, it seems like 1 is going to be that number going forward.
Yo, what up? That number is 0. Playoffs start today, baby. Got to get locked in. All right. There's tight races in the AFC. There's going to be a couple teams. There's going to be a tight race in the AFC South with the involving the team that they're playing tomorrow, the Tennessee Titans. Colts, hot off the presses, donkey. Saturday Night Football. They're looking pretty darn good in the AFC.
I've been telling you for 3 weeks. After everyone started talking New England, I'm like, who's the next team I could talk about that people are forgetting? Oh, that's right. The Colts, because they just don't turn the ball over. Say what you want, their running game is stellar, and that defense getting better and better, and they might have the best middle linebacker in football, Gingy.
Yeah, Demaryius Thomas. No, fuck it. What is it again? What's his name?
Leonard.
Yes.
He's out there killing it. He had a big interception in the red zone today.
Yes. Yes, sir.
You said Demaryius, and it sounded like you said Thomas. R.I.P. to that guy. I mean,
that's
shitty
why
to
I was
hear
caught on the brain.
And if you didn't see some other news in the NFL, I'll bring up really quick. CTE seems to be a thing that's really messing with these people. I mean, that guy who used to play cornerback for the 49ers that killed 6 people, he had stage 3 of it. They just did the autopsy on Vincent Jackson. He came back with stage 2 CTE. I mean, so say what you want. These guys are out there putting literally their lives on the line for your entertainment. I hope you enjoy it and realize that's why they're well compensated because, dude, brain stuff is not fun over there. And the NFL is going to have a hard time with it now with all these players getting their brains studied to not give them aftercare treatment. But that's neither here nor there. We have a couple other AFC games to talk about from last week before we get into the Steelers. Laskers, do you want to go over the funness that happened in Cleveland, Baltimore?
I don't know if I'd consider it fun, but it did help us a little bit. I mean, and truthfully, I don't really care about watching either of those teams play. They're our enemies, and it's not a good thing to want to watch. But it was just an interesting game, I guess.
What's wrong with the Ravens?
It flipped over. Well, Lamar got hurt early on a little bit of a kind of play by Usuomora. Yeah. I was watching that game. I watched the comeback happen because I only got to see that part of it because whoever game I had on was a super big blowout. Maybe it was a Dallas game or something. I don't know. I don't even know who got blown out last week. I'm so out of it. But, yes, Baltimore losing definitely helps the Steelers because the Steelers need as many teams in front of them to stack up losses. Cleveland's even with us, but the big thing is we get to play them. So they can stay even with us because we end the season there. As long as we win that game, we'll get ahead of them. So that definitely helped. But then I think the bigger help was Cincinnati climbing back into that game in San Francisco, Gingy, but they just couldn't finish the deal in overtime. What did you see out there? Was this exactly what you wanted?
What I saw, no, well, I mean, in the short term, yes, it's exactly what we wanted. We saw the Bengals fall, right? They bungled it up. Mm-hmm. You know what I saw that
against
I didn't
an NFC team.
You know what I saw that I didn't like?
The comeback and Joe Burrow?
A wide receiver quarterback connection donkey between 2 young guys. It looks like that it could go on for a really long time.
That's true. That's true. It definitely does. The rest of the AFC.
That's not.
Is there any other games you guys found interesting this weekend? Like, I personally found the Monday night game to be fun. I thought the Rams won because Arizona got out-coached. I don't think Cliff Kingsbury had a very good game plan going this week against the Rams. So I thought that was interesting. You guys have any games you liked?
The Bills game was kind of interesting because I turned it on when they were down big time, and then they made a comeback and lost it in overtime. And we did need the Bills to lose because they are now tied with us. So, and we have the tiebreaker on them.
Well, tied and losses. They'll never be tied with us unless they tie a game.
True.
But yeah, I was on the phone with my wife, and I'm like, yeah, I'm watching Tom Brady blow out the Bills. She comes home, and she's like, so what happened? I'm like, well, it became a good game because it went to overtime. Still not quite sure what happened in that game. I was watching it, and I honestly don't know how it ended up in overtime, and I don't know how Tampa Bay won. But yeah, thank you, Tom Brady. A way to help cement your MVP season, probably, because that one helps the Steelers. The Thursday night game this week helped the Steelers out by the Chargers blowing that game that they should have won against the Chiefs. Adds another team to the 6-loss column. But the team that won on Saturday game does that New England loss. We would have preferred to see the Patriots win there. Steelers fans just trying to get every team possible to have more losses than we do to keep our playoff hopes alive, which, by the way, playoff hopes kind of get hurt a lot on last week's version of fake football, Thursday night football. Okay, how many times are we going to see a team that just doesn't show up in a first half try to make it interesting in a second half? Like, who wants to break this game down? Because I really don't. Gingy, you want to give it a shot?
Didn't show up in the first half, Donkey, is an understatement. What was it? Dalvin ran like the wind all day. All day.
He was a guy who was one tackle away from being injured and out for the game if we could have just touched him.
One thing that I thought was really funny, I saw him in a post-game interview. He was talking to Aaron Andrews afterwards. See, she was talking his return, whatever, him running. He looked at her and said, "Aaron, you could have ran through those holes tonight." Now, I know Dalvin was just trying to be a little suave, whatever, but listen.
I think he was
right. That is a terrible burn. Terrible, Donkey. And he was totally right.
It's the truth, though. I mean, ever since 11 of last year, this team cannot stop the run. The holes are just, like, honestly, there were some holes I think you could have drove a Mack truck through. I know people say it, but there really were. There's just not good play out of the middle linebackers, not good holds on the outside linebackers. The defensive line, we're only playing 2 down linemen, and no offense to Cam Hayward or Chris Wormley here, but neither of them are big enough to draw a double team. So you're talking not playing extra down linemen. When does it become the Steelers just have to keep 3 defensive linemen in the game at all times? Because when we make teams pass play, why the hell the Vikings ever pass the ball and let Akil Witherspoon get 2 interceptions? Why they ever started passing the ball to let us back into the game is beyond me. Like, I would have just ran it, made the Steelers actually score, because what was it? The Steelers scored 14 points off the 2 interceptions, right? So half our points came from turnovers?
That was the turn, yeah.
At this point, that's the second time that's happened, because that's the same thing that happened in LA game, if I'm not mistaken, and the Cincinnati game, is turnovers started to maybe give us a little bit of hope. Why, Laskers, are teams even bothering to throw the football unless they're throwing it 60 yards over our heads? This would be the only way I would throw it.
Sure, maybe they're getting confused. I don't know. I do have some breaking news, though. Frank Gore loses his boxing exhibition match, just in case you guys really wanted to know about that.
He was fighting some
basketball
player?
Yeah, Darren Williams from the NBA.
Oh, D-Will's all right. He's a pretty. I was gonna say he lost to a basketball player, but that was a pretty big basketball player, not height-wise, but all right. Yeah, I could see that. What about the offense though? What was it? By the time we were down 14 points, the offense had ran 7 plays, a 3 and out, or 2 3 and out. Right? Is that how it went? So it was actually. It was a 3 and out, a first down, and then 3 and out, and then a 3 and out. Gingy, at some point, I know the offense put up 28 points. Explosion!
Major.
Gingy. Explosion.
Major.
What point does the offense, though, start to hold some of the blame here on the fact that the defense is on the field the whole first half?
I'd say that's
and to be honest, the offense only scores when the defense causes turnovers. When do we start holding the offense a little bit responsible for their inability to score on scheduled drives and their inability to score in the first half in general?
I'd say that's immediately, Donkey. That's why we're having these slows, not getting anything. Even a battle of field position at that point. These 3 and outs where we go, 1st and 10, 2nd and 9, 3rd and 9. That's not working.
Bubble screen on 3rd and 9 to a tight end with no blockers in front.
For 4 yards.
That sounds about right.
Yep, and it's 4th and 5, and you punt. And that's what you do.
It wouldn't be funnier, but it's so true. What does this team need to do to get... Better question. Is Ben Roethlisberger capable of putting together a full football game, Laskers? Let's start there.
The week before, it looked like he could. I think it was a week before, or either that or it was 2 weeks ago. It looked like he could, and then, we got the short week here, and he went somewhere else this week and basically only showed up in the fourth quarter. So
I feel like he's only showed up in the fourth quarter in the past month. Laskers, I need some research. How many points have the Steelers scored in the first half over the past 4 games? I'll get back to you in a minute with that.
That's going to take time.
But Gingy, if isn't capable of putting together a whole game, how do we get it to where he just has to put together a first half so we only have to run the ball the second half? Is there a way we can turn it on so instead of waiting for the other team to get a little lax, because let's be honest, when we start making comebacks recently, it's been when the other team's starting to take it a little easy. And that's always when you're at threat for a big comeback, is when you start taking your foot off the throttle, much like the Vikings did against us. Well, how do we get Ben to be, instead of that guy who plays against the lax defense, to show up against the good half of the defense? Because there have been a couple drives this year where we actually scored first drive touchdowns. What needs to happen this week to get rid of that terrible feel of the Minnesota game? Is there a Ben in there that can start fast?
Get a first down. You see, I have a different view somewhat on Ben's play last week. I see a guy who threw for over 300 yards, 3 touchies, kept the ball generally, with us, had 1 pick. But I don't know, I saw something different from him last week, and here's my take on Ben Roethlisberger. I felt like he woke up. For a long time, I feel like he's been really protected because of that elbow, because he's getting older. The elder statesmen don't let him get... when he took that blindside from Barr, he looked like he needed a little smelling salt to come back from that. He got totally dump trucked, blindside. You saw the head whiplash, and Donkey, I haven't seen Ben take a hit like that in a minute. But for some reason, I feel like he took it, and I felt like he was a little bit looser after that. I felt like he played more Ben football. And I think that fundamentally, as an older guy, can't be a part of his game because he can't sustain that anymore. But I think that part of that game is ingrained into him, and when that happened to him and he was able to endure it, luckily, he lit up after that. He started dropping dime skis.
Let's be honest here, Gingy. That's 100% on Ben. There's 4 rushers on the line. There's Dan Moore can't block. 3 barely block 1 on a good day.
Yeah.
You see that? You have to make the quick read and throw the ball. But Ben being Ben, he missed it. He stood there and for some reason didn't throw the football. It is what it is. You're not going to change it. I'm going to argue a little bit with you, the throwing dimes part. He definitely gave his receivers chances, and the receivers made plays this week. Let's not be honest. James Washington had at least 3 man catches where the defender had a better chance at the ball. And Chase Claypool came up with a couple man catches, which was nice to see. But we can just disagree on semantics there. Ben played a good enough game at the end of the day, at the fourth quarter, but Ben didn't play a good enough game in the first half. So I don't call him a winner or a loser. He was just kind of a part to what that score ended up being.
I have your stats.
My biggest problem is Chase Claypool has just an unreasonable taunting penalty because he's a little kid and doesn't understand how to be a man in a football game. And then comes back in the fourth quarter after getting benched for a little bit and You're down 7, 30 seconds to go, celebrating a first down instead of giving the referee. Why is this childish play something that always seems to plague the Steelers?
I don't think there's a good answer for that one, Donkey. I think it might have something to do with coaching, but it also might just have something to do with the players that we actually draft who aren't quite mature enough when they get out of college.
I feel like there's a lack of player leadership because, say what you want, coaching leadership is something, but when a player holds you accountable, it's something different. I want you guys to remember, because there was a player from Minnesota, I don't remember who, a defensive back, who got a taunting penalty. Do you know what I remember about it, though? I remember Anthony Barr getting in his face and chewing him out before sending him to the sideline. It wasn't a coach who made that decision. It was a player leader in Anthony Barr. That is huge to me. I don't see that on the Steelers. And the biggest reason I can tell you I don't see that is the Steelers' biggest veteran, the face of the franchise. Gingy, do you remember what his comment was after the game about this situation?
What's that?
It's not my responsibility. That's for the coaches to handle. The captain, you're the leader. It is your responsibility to get these guys in line. And I'm sorry, to me, that has been what is one of the biggest problems with the Steelers is there just does not seem to be accountability amongst the players. And that statement to me was so telling. But Laskers, do you have how many points we scored in the first half for the last 4 games?
Oh, I got it for the last 4 games of the year and how many total points how many we scored in the second half if you'd like all those.
I would like first half points for the last 4 games because I know it's terrible for the year. I just want to know if it's been better.
No, it's 10.
10.
No,
Were we leading any of these games in the first half?
I don't believe so.
Jesus. All right. Well, that's going to be my cause for biggest issue coming out of these last few games is the Steelers start slow both offensively and defensively, and that's unacceptable. The Vikings games was a showcase of it. And let's be honest here, the Vikings are much like the Steelers, Gingy. They're very meh.
Yeah,
Fair?
If they were yin, then the Vikings are the yang because they do the exact opposite. They get huge leads in the first half and they like to blow them. So the storm was perfect for us to do that because the Vikings, that's what they do, and this is what the Steelers do. We couldn't finish at the end. Tough drop for a tough kid.
It was. Gingy, I think, took my comments wrong when we were texting about this after the game. He's like, you can't hold Freiermuth accountable. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not saying that. Because what I said is you have to catch that football, right? Steelers driving down. Last second play, which, by the way, we would have had wasn't a bonehead. But last second play, both hands on the ball. Harrison Smith comes right in on the ball and hits it. But if you're the Steelers, you're a team that wants to make the playoffs. That's just a ball that has to be caught. It's not an easy catch. It would have been a highlight reel catch, a catch of the year candidate, right? But I just feel, and Gingy, tell me if I'm wrong, I feel like that is the Steelers season in a nutshell. Oh my gosh, it looks like we have a chance. We can do this, and it's just not there. It's just not there.
Well, I mean, kudos to the Vikings. I mean, Barr for that's what I feel. I feel like the focus and the narrative around that play, Donkey, and it really has nothing to do with the offense. Offense executed a good play. The real narrative there is around the play that was made on defense by Barr. You could have Travis Kelce in the slot there. Oh, Harrison Smith. Excuse me. If you could have Travis Kelce there at tight end, and I'm still pretty sure that ball's coming out. That was a square punch. So, like I said, yes, you have to hold Freiermuth accountable for the drop, but you can't hang that L on him.
No, but I have to say is that Freiermuth and drop in football that game is getting a little concerning. That's all I'm going to say. I don't hold him accountable, but the Detroit game, I'm just saying, he needs to stop this. He's really breaking my heart, and he seems like he's going to be a good, at least receiving tight end. Maybe he transforms into a good all-around, but at least a good receiving tight end. But seriously, he's starting to break my heart more than he's helping it, Gingy.
Yeah, I understand, Donkey. That would have been really nice to see what would have happened if he would have held on to that.
Oh, man. The way Minnesota is in one-score games, you have to assume we win. They have to be the worst one-score game football team in the history of ever. And a lot of that has to do with your quarterback. Say what you want. Kirk is... He's like one of the last quarterbacks you would ever want in a last-minute drive. Like, I think if you're putting all the NFL quarterbacks in there, I might take some of the rookies before I take Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I mean, well, Kirk ended up almost costing them that game.
Costing them it?
Yeah.
Did he have two completions the whole second half to his 2 interceptions? Is that about right?
Sounds about right, but I don't know the stats on that one.
I mean, like I said,
all in
Donkey,
all,
if you ask yourself this, I mean, look at the stat line. Kirk Cousins, 14 for 31, 2 tuts, 2 picks. And then you look at Ben Roethlisberger, 28 for 40, 308, 3 tuts, and an int. Which offense do you think would be better from that? But then you look at Dalvin Cook.
Well, wait. Am I allowed to know that the Steelers can't stop the run, or am I just basing this purely off quarterback stats?
Just off quarterback stats.
Then clearly, yes, you'd think the Steelers had the better game. But if I knew the other team was the Steelers and they can't stop the run, I would have to think a little bit.
That's why Ben Roethlisberger deserves a fair bit of criticism, and we've definitely given it to him. But if you reach this game to put criticism on him, I think there's enough criticism to go around.
I'm gonna say,
give it all to Ben this game.
I'm gonna say something else too. What if we looked at Ben Roethlisberger's stats when the game was within 1 score? Very, very poor, because that would essentially be only his first half stats and the last drive of the game. So he'd have his interception and all that stuff. It would not look very good if you said, when this game was within 1 score, this is what the Steelers quarterback did. As opposed to, look at Kirk Cousins' stats when they're within 1 score. Because both of his interceptions and his shitty play came when the Vikings were up 29 points. Were we down 29 points? Is that what it was?
See, but I think this...
At least 23.
I think
it was terrible. And I think the narrative here is getting lost. Ben's end stat line looks good. And yes, Ben did a lot to bring us back into the game. But Ahkello Witherspoon, you take away his 2 interceptions, we have 14 less points. Ben is doing a great job of turning turnovers by the defense into points this year. But the fact of the matter is, Ben is not playing very good football when the game is within 1 score. That last drive, Gingy, was amazing. You have to ignore the whole first half of bad play. I mean, yes, he played good for a quarter and a half of football, but a quarter and a half of football doesn't get you shit. I mean, look what Ben did at the set. Take away the first quarter of the Browns playoff game last year. Ben looks like a Hall of Famer. But the thing is, you can't take away the bad part of the game.
And see, that's where it generally comes down. That's why you and I are good at talking about this, Donkey. I think we have 2 fundamentally different views on the game. You're a very analytical guy on this, and I'm more... I don't know. I see a team that, with all these symptoms that we're seeing, straightforward, a team that has a lot of heart but not a lot of talent. I think that explains all this.
There's definitely not a whole lot of talent, at least on the side. Let me take that back. Our skill players are probably one of the more talented groups in the league, but our offensive line might be the worst in the league. What I'm seeing is the symptom of a team that has been kicking the can down the road, kicking the can down the road. And when time came due to pay the bill, we tried to kick it one more time, and we Charlie Brown that shit, okay? I told you before, this team is built to be 8-8-1. I didn't actually think we would tie a football game, but I'm sticking with this team is built to be 8-8-1. And you just don't do that in the modern day NFL. You either rebuild or you go all in. But the Steelers built their team to be mediocre. Is that fair to say?
Again, you don't intend it that way, but talent-wise, yeah.
Talent-wise on the offensive line, I think I do agree with Donkey that the other role players on the offense do have the talent.
All I'm going to say is, when you had, let's say, a bottom 10 offensive line in the league last year, you lose players from it, and your idea of how to replace them is a 3rd-round pick who's undersized and a 4th-round pick who isn't talented enough to be a starter by most projections, you intentionally built this team to not be good because there are very few teams in the NFL who are good without an offensive line. As a matter of fact, I don't think I can think of. Maybe I'm wrong. Laskers, Gingy, do you have a team that's a good team without an offensive line? Please, someone say the Steelers, because I'm not sure I would argue with you if you said the Steelers.
I mean, at least we're, mediocre.
Which in the AFC this year, mediocre can make the playoffs, right?
Let's go. Still a chance.
For real, right now, the Steelers win out there in the playoffs, essentially, because enough of those teams that have 6 losses play each other to where I'm pretty sure even if all the teams outside of playing each other won every game, the Steelers would still get in at 6 losses. I'm pretty sure on that. Don't quote me because there's 4 weeks of football left, right? 4 weeks of football?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we did a fine job covering the Vikings game. Do you guys have any thoughts, Laskers?
No, I don't.
Gingy?
Ah, boy, disappointing. I was almost ready for bed there to the 4th quarter, and then I woke up only to have my hopes and dreams dashed further.
This team has been good at that for the past year. They lull you back into it, man, just to break your heart even more. Chargers game, they tried a little on the Bongals game. I don't know what to say about this one though. I mean, that's let's be honest, that's not a game that playoff teams lose, right? That's a game that they had to come in and win. And instead, this defense that used to be tough and tenacious gives up 200 rushing yards in the first half. I don't think it was exactly that, but it was. If it wasn't, it felt like it, right? I think they gave up the most rushing yards in a half here by any. Now let that sink in. A team that's supposed to be a top 10 defensive unit, and I talked at nauseum about this, how what I hated was the fact that the Steelers gutted a good defense to keep a mediocre offense. And I will get into that more in the offseason, but that's essentially what we're seeing right now is that the offense isn't good enough to carry the defense, and the defense no longer can carry the offense. So we're just kind of stuck in neutral. But we have some AFC games we need to talk about. One was supposed to happen today in the AFC North, play the Raiders, but they get postponement, so they might get their quarterback back. Does that change the outcome for you, Laskers or Gingy? Who are you seeing come away on the now Monday night Cleveland Raider game?
I don't think it really changes it. I think that actually, is Derek Carr out too?
I don't
Thought he was.
have any idea. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I have no idea.
I will go look. Because I would pick the Raiders if he's in. But I don't think
We'll
it's that
have
much of a
Laskers
difference.
go look that up. Gingy, what are you feeling on the Browns Raiders?
Raiders by 6. Browns are sus.
Ooh. I think Cleveland wins by 4 because I think the Raiders, and they've all been complaining and crying about it on social media. I feel like when you get out there and you let outside things get in your head, you just don't play good football. And honestly, the Raiders haven't played good football since Henry Ruggs crashed his car.
Well, they should be getting Darren Waller back, though.
That's a big one.
It's still, I mean, he was questionable for today, but now that it's a Monday night game, I think that might make a difference that he can actually play, because I know he did practice this week. And I'm going
So what are you
Raiders by
feeling,
3.
Laskers?
And
Hey, here's my chance to make up some space on the boys.
and Derek
Let's
Carr
go.
is not out.
All right, so we have another AFC North game. The division-leading Baltimore Ravens are going, and are they going to Lambeau? Is that right, or is Lambeau coming to Baltimore? Anyway,
Lambeau's
Green
coming
Bay.
to Baltimore.
Green Bay at Baltimore. Okay, we got it. Who you guys like here? Laskers?
I gotta go with the Green Bay Packers. I think that they're gonna probably run it up on the Ravens. I'm gonna go them by 14.
Gingy.
Green Bay in a tight one. Green Bay by 3.
I think Baltimore gets that horseshoe game back after 2 tough losses. I think it's Ravens by.
Very tight.
I'm either going to go way behind on the picks or I'm making up space this week. Let's go. All right, so we have Cincy Broncos. I don't even know what to make about this because there's the Broncos who have great defense and sometimes the offense shows up. And there's Cincy who has great on both sides of the ball sometimes, but other times just don't show up at all. I have no idea why. Let's just go Bengals by 7 because, hell, maybe you two will pick the Broncos that can make up 3 games this week. Let's go. Gingy, what you feeling?
Bengals by 3. They're really close, I feel. Probably the closest team in the division to put on.
Yeah, they're young and inexperienced. It shows. Laskers.
Well, I was gonna go Bengals by 3, but I'm gonna go Bengals by 4 because Gingy picked by 3, and my reason is I think Joe Mixon's gonna show back up this week.
Did anyone else find it weird though that the Broncos defense has actually gotten better since trading Von Miller? Like, does anyone else find that odd?
It's a little odd.
It'd be like the Steelers getting rid of TJ Watt and getting better, but if you've seen the stats, that would definitely not happen.
Definitely not happen.
No.
So that brings us this week. Biggest game of the year to date. Obviously, every game from now on is, right? Titans coming into the Berg. Laskers, give me a breakdown. Let's see who won in this game.
Well, at least Derrick Henry back, so he can't run for 1,000 yards against us.
No, Tannehill will go for 100.
God, I hope not.
99. Is that what the other quarterback ran for? 99.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Hopefully, the offense decides to show up early in the game. Hopefully we can put up, more than 10 points in the first half and, maybe give ourselves a fighting chance to win the game and not have to try to win it in the fourth quarter.
Gingy, what are you feeling from this game? Just the overall game feel.
At the end of the day, even without Derrick Henry, the Titans are still a running team. And we're going to have to account for they got that back there now, Donta Foreman.
Donta Foreman, yep.
Yeah, and that guy had a tut last week. Didn't look too bad.
They run that power pulling, old school power O offensive play that just, if you watched last week, every one of those big holes that you could drive any kind of car you want through, that's essentially what it is. The guard in the center push right while the right guard drops back and pushes left, and it just creates this vacuum hole against the Steelers. And you watch any team who runs the ball against us do it. I mean, that's how Cincinnati ran the ball. That's how Minnesota ran the ball. That's how San Diego, oh my gosh, Los Angeles ran the ball. I mean, these guys run that as it is. It's a little scary for us. Thank goodness that the Baltimore Ravens don't run the football that way anymore. They're more like counter O type of stuff instead of power O. But is this the week the Steelers finally will stop the power O running game?
I don't know if you're gonna stop that, but I think one of these weeks, Donkey, if it's gonna happen. Not saying that it's gonna. We're gonna have to see some real offensive production. Not and production that gets out of control. Listen, I understand the way that those stats look and the way that Ben got his yards on that game. We need to find some consistency, and I think that comes with developing a better game plan. But I don't know the answer.
What's weird is it seems like we run the same plays. It just seems like in the second half, Ben's willing to
take risks,
throw the 50-50, get caught. Whereas in the he's like, I'm just going to check it down.
We're not taking risks.
Yard.
We play in the first half like we're up by 40 already. Like we're killing clock.
So the whole like late 90s, early 2000s Steelers.
Except without Jerome Bettis.
Or Cordell.
Well, yeah, no Slash. Definitely not Slash.
Gingy, I want to get into this one for you. Is this the revenge of Ola Adeni?
I don't know. Hopefully he doesn't pull a... Oh my gosh.
A Wormley?
Yes, hopefully he
A
doesn't
Wormley?
pull a
I got
Wormley
you.
and just blow up versus team. Oh my gosh, I don't know. Let's hope not. Let's hope not for Ben's sake.
Now, Laskers, is the biggest part of this game going to be the fact that Derrick Henry and I believe A.J. Brown's still on IR too, right? Is the biggest fact of this game the missing players on Tennessee's side?
I think it definitely has a chance to help us, that's for sure. He could return, it looks like. That's what I was going to look at. But, yeah, I think it actually is definitely going to help us. But they've been able to still win without those key pieces, and that's scary.
Now, in a game, Gingy, that's setting up to be ugly, does the fact that Chris Boswell just literally owns like everything about Heinz Field, is that going to become a huge factor here? Is that going to be potentially the change? Is Chris Boswell?
Let's hope so, because if it is, in Boz we trust. I mean, he had a recent miss, but overall in the season, he's missed two field goals. He's 25 for 27, something like
Yeah,
that.
sounds right.
I think he's missed 2 field goals, 2 extra points. I think you're right.
I mean, if I have to hang the game on somebody, an individual on the team, I'm okay with it being Boz.
I'm okay with it being man hands James Washington. But that brings us to what I see this game being sloppy. I see this game being that neither team scores 20 type of game, which means it's going to be an explosion both ways, right? But what's weird to me is you have 2 quarterbacks who both are very capable of not turning the ball over, but are also very capable of turning the ball over 6 times. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about this game. I think the Steelers have to be drained after all these big comebacks. I feel Ben is starting to show a little bit from these hits. I know he's out there toughing up, but he missed more practice this week than he has normally. Najee's looking... Last week was his best week in a long time, but before that he was looking a little tired. Does he show up just a little slow in this game? Does Claypool get over his whatever's going on, or does he start getting in his own head? I don't know what this game is, because these are 2 very odd teams, especially Tennessee. 2 best players. Let's be honest, their 2 best players are Brown and Henry, and neither one's probably playing. But we'll get into picks in a minute. First, I guess we should say X factors for the game. Offensively, we'll go Gingy to Laskers to me. Let's go.
Gingy first, X Factor this week. I'd like to see how young man Chase Claypool bounces back. Good game statistically. Counted several different mental errors from the young man, though. From not getting the ball to the ref on the final drive, to a taunting call, to a missed block on the first drive. Looking at Chase Claypool to bounce back, show his maturity and development, and be a key contributor in it's getting that consistency back on track this week.
I like it. Laskers?
I think my X factor for the week has got to be TJ. We got to get some pressure on Tannehill.
Offense, Laskers.
Oh, shit. I just heard X factor. Offense, let me think about this one. Oh, we're going to go Boswell for that one.
Yeah, let's go.
He scores the points.
Yeah, we need the points.
Need to put them all through, all them extra points through.
I think the X factor is going to be a little outside the box. For me, Kendrick Green. He has struggled on the ball. He's struggled with interior pressure. And if you let the Tennessee Titans get pressure from the interior too, their 2 down tackles, it's going to be a long day. I think Kendrick Green has to get some push this week. He has to snap the ball well. And he has to get the offensive line in the right alignments. He cannot have free rushers coming at Ben because you don't know how many more hits Ben can take at this point. That brings us to defensive X factors. We'll do the opposite order. I'll go first, then I'll go to Laskers and Gingy. And my defensive X factor is going to be Ahkello Witherspoon because that guy was the biggest thing in the Minnesota game. He stepped up, has provided us another outside corner, and whether or not Joe Hayden plays, you're going to see Ahkello Witherspoon probably be the third corner, which means Cam Sutton will get a slide into the slot. Hayden's there. Otherwise, he's going to be playing on that left side, and someone has to stop Julio Jones. So I think Ahkello Witherspoon's going to be the key net to make a difference, and maybe another interception because he's been on fire recently. Laskers.
Well, you already know who mine's going to be. It's going to be TJ because we need that pressure this week to make Tannehill make some mistakes. Maybe a couple INTs, maybe a couple strip fumble sacks, that type of stuff. We need that.
TJ is good at that one. Jay.
My defensive factor is going to be coming right in the middle of the field. It's going to be from Devin Bush. I thought he had a pretty good game last week. I'd like him to follow it up. We're starting to see having some Devin Bush sightings out there. Felt really good about that. Need him clogging up the middle. Was you talking about this power running line, flipping left, flipping right? If they get to the second level, he needs to be shutting them down 2 or 3 yards.
Devin Bush did tip that ball that was the first interception by Ahkello Witherspoon last week, correct? That was Bush who got his little mid on there?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
It was
I'm
nice
not
to
100%
see some positive plays from Bush, especially when you considered we actually saw Marcus Allen play a little bit. And God bless it. He hasn't been off the bench all year. Obviously, the Titans have a very talented defense. I mean, they got guys like Baird, who's a Pro Bowler. They have a talented offense. I mean, Tannehill's a mid-tier quarterback, but they still have Julio Jones. I mean, Donta Foreman can't be looked over too much, and that offensive line is good. But when we're getting into game predictions here, like I told you before, the score, I'm looking 17-16 Titans. I just feel it's an ugly game, and I just feel Ben makes those throws but doesn't get away with them. Because it's been recently, these are either knocking balls away or making man catches. I just feel like it doesn't happen this week, and I think Ben turns the ball over 3 times, and Tannehill only turns it over once, and the Titans win by 1. Laskers, Gingy, you guys can Rochambeau, you can rock, paper, scissors, but whoever wants to go next, feel free.
I guess I'll go next. Oh, go ahead.
I called it. Gingy up with the I think the Steelers this week, man, I don't know. I guess I'm hoping for an explosion. Come on, Donkey. Let me see it. Let's go.
We had 2 last freaking 4 games and we got spanked in both of them, if you're being honest.
Can we distribute this explosion across 4 quarters rather than the final 8 minutes?
I couldn't answer for you.
I'd like
love to, but I have no idea.
That's what I'd like to see. But Gingy coming in this week with a nail biter once again in typical Steeler fashion. 27-26. Pittsburgh Steelers.
I like how everyone has 1-point games. Call it a tie so that we're all even.
Nope, I'm not gonna do that. So, I forgot what I was going to say because I had a point of why I was going to pick what I was going to do. But I'm going to go Steelers 21 and the Titans 18.
Oh my God, Gingy, this might be the first time ever you have predicted the highest score for both teams.
Wow.
Everyone in Dog Nation, mark it down.
Wow.
Because low-scoring Gingy's on the top, which means... What does that mean? Is this gonna be? We're gonna get the explosion? Is that what it means?
We're gonna have a heck of a weekend for us, Donkey. I told you. What did I tell you after the last show, Donkey? Or
that football's canceled whenever we lose?
Well,
so you obviously didn't watch any last week.
I haven't had any football in like 10 days, Donkey. And I'm feeling an explosion. Alright, I got a little taste tonight, but we're an explosion tomorrow.
Any last thoughts? Any last words about week? Someone help me here. 15?
15.
All right. Any last thoughts? guys?
No.
Gingy?
Nope. Let's get it going.
Alright. Let's go to shout-outs. I don't think it's fair to give a Steelers shout-out after last week. So my shout-out's going to be to the Pitt Panthers women volleyball team for making the Final Four. I know they lost to Nebraska, but hey, it's always fun to watch a team get to a Final Four that you're rooting for. So good job, Pitt volleyball. Way to make it all the way there. And go to Laskers.
Well, I actually am going to give a shout out. There's one Steeler player in specific. You got to give Najee a shout out. 4.7 yards a carry last week. That's pretty impressive. Better than he's done all year. So we need to keep that up.
By the way, Bud Dupree just had a huge tackle in the backfield against the Titans for the Steelers in the Madden game. Just saying.
Tricky.
Gingy shout out.
Something I alluded to earlier. Guy lost too soon in Denver. Demaryius Thomas lost in his early 30s out there. They had a heck of a tribute at the start of the Broncos-Lions game. Broncos lined up with 10 people and took the deliberate penalty without a wide receiver. Lions, of course, declined it to start that game in recognition of a guy lost too soon. That has been a heck of a receiver, the past decade or so.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out Thomas, R.I.P. man.
I don't know if I could ever shout out. In fact, he still breaks my heart every time I watch Tebow
I
throw that
know
ball in
I know
overtime.
why, and that has to be set aside for certain reasons.
I don't disagree with you. It just, man,
I know.
really,
I know.
really, Ike Taylor, really. That's all I have to say. Because that's the first year where the playoff thing was if they kick a field goal, they don't necessarily win. So of course we give up a shout. Yeah, good shout outs. I like it. I guess I lied. I want to shout out Akilah Witherspoon. Way to stick with it. Finally get a helmet and get 2 interceptions. Good on you.
Let's go.
So that brings us to the time to let you know that I am Viking Donkey. No spaces, no nothing on Xbox. Viking_Donkey on Twitch and Twitter. Your daily dose of donkey with Ginger is the YouTube. Leave us a like, leave us a follow, leave us a comment. Tell us what you like, what you didn't like. If you want us to cover some other team, I'll give them more homework and we'll pretend to know that what we're talking about. I do watch every football game on Game Pass, so at least I can give you a little bit of my view, but I know my view's kind of dumb and analytical. Because, it's not very fun when you just talk numbers because it's kind of cold-hearted. That's why I bring in the Gingy. That's why I bring in the Laskers. They give you that warm, cozy, homey feeling here on the show. So, we'll go to Laskers. We'll go to Gingy. We'll sign it out. Thank y'all, Donk Nation, for tuning in to me. And listen up for them.
You can find me everywhere at Laskers. We have been playing some Halo lately and some Madden, so you can always come play with me on Xbox. And over to you, Gingy.
I'll give you a warm and cozy donkey. Mutant Gingy here. We playing Xbox. We talking football. We getting hype, baby. We got a smorgasbord of football going on. We got Saturday night football, Sunday afternoon football, Sunday night football, Monday football. I think there's some Tuesday football.
There's Tuesday.
There is.
Holy donkey. Get them and ready if you got them, boys. Because we got some football after some 10 days, and the Steelers need this one. Get hype, Donk Nation, Steelers Nation. Wave them if you got them. Let's go.